Welcome to Chapter 7. We are going to discuss the nervous system in Chapter 7. The nervous system coordinates very well with the endocrine system, so I will likely pair these together as long as time in the semester allows that. But let's talk about Chapter 7 right now, the nervous system. So the nervous system is broken up into two components, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system is just your brain and your spinal cord. The rest of it is the peripheral nervous system. Then it can be divided into somatic and autonomic or visceral nervous system. You can read about that. The neuron is the nervous system's basic function unit. Each neuron has two types of fibers extending, etc. Dendrite and axon. You can read what they do. Again, this is a medical terminology course. Just review this information. You've had it before. This is not an anatomy class. Nerves, individual neuron fibers are held together in bundles like wires in a cable. Oh, that's a great way to describe that. So you have the nerve, a collection of cell bodies along the pathways called a ganglion. Yes. All right, so I'm going to go to the next page. The brain. Pieces of the brain can be important in medical terminology. Cerebrum, cerebellum, there's spinal cords here, medulla oblongata, pons, midbrain, brainstem. I don't see the amygdala. It's in the, where is the amygdala? Okay, that's a whole nother discussion. So just be familiar, know that you do have a cerebrum in your brain, obviously, and a cerebellum, and kind of what they do. Those parts of that organ can provide different things. Frontal lobe, parietal, temporal, and occipital. The occipital lobe, so this is here where oftentimes a lot of athletes or anybody who falls and hits the back of your head, if you lose your vision temporarily, if you have blurred vision, it's because there's a bruise or concussion in this area of the head. That is where the eyes are connected, the nerve pathways. Okay, so this chapter goes really into the anatomy here. Review it. Please do review this. I'm just not going to read it all to you. Protecting the brain. It is amazing how our bodies are designed and the protection, what all is involved with the cerebral spinal fluid, the meninges, arachnoid matter, dura matter, just so many things here. Okay, this is a pretty cool diagram that shows you where the nerves live and or where they're housed. Again, this is not something you have to know to pass this class. Just be familiar with the importance of the brain and the nerves. So here's some terminology for your reference. Oh, these are the cranial nerves. One is olfactory, two is optic, three is oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal. So there is a better I have mentioned Pinterest more than once during this class, but it's true. Pinterest has a lot of great medical terminology references for you to, save, pin, review to learn in a different way. But there is a song or there's something that goes along with this. It's just been 27 years since I did that, but look forward if you're interested in really learning and memorizing the cranial nerves. You do not have to for this course because remember, you can always look up a question. That's what we're going to do in real life. That's what you're going to do in a doctor's office. That's what you're going to do if you're in the hospital, wherever you are working in healthcare with medical terminology. You can look it up if you don't recall it all. I do want you to learn as much as you possibly can, but we're not going to leave here this one unit, this one credit unit course an expert, but you will be competent when you leave me. Okay, spinal cord. So there's spinal nerves connected to the spinal cord. It controls reflexes. Some folks have quick action reflexes, others don't for many different reasons. So your brain is here, the brain stem, cervical part of the spinal column, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral, and that does not change in between genders. It doesn't change even if you have injuries. This will always be the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral, and of course the nerves are labeled there too as well. Okay, that goes into like sagittal views of the spinal cord. But the autonomic nervous system, this is what it does. Pretty cool stuff here. So our sympathetic nervous system is what can put us in fight or flight real quick when it comes to stressful, traumatic events. The parasympathetic nervous system is what provides a more medium, no, that's a steady state. A You can control, you can calm down with your parasympathetic. And the way that we were taught that in nursing school is the parasympathetic. Think of a parachute like you're coming down. That's how I differentiate the two. But it's really cool how you can learn techniques to control stress, control your heart rate. This is what our special ops soldiers do, like whether they're Navy SEALs, Green Berets, whatever division of the military, or even police officers are now starting to be taught this. Like, you can calm down in situations that may not be calming, but you can calm your body down. You can decrease your heart rate intentionally. And there's YouTube it, Google it, how to the parasympathetic actions that you can do to calm yourself down in certain situations. We do it in medicine often at the bedside when things are really, really spastic, and just you have to maintain your calmness and your coolness. And there's things that we know to do to stay calm, even when you want to freak out. You cannot in healthcare. So there's ways to do that. All right, so here's some terminology. Afferent, arachnoid matter, autonomic nervous system, axon, brain, brainstem, central nervous system, cerebellum, cerebral cortex, cerebrum, dendrites. You guys can read this, but to put in all my other videos, I've said this too. Say these out loud, and then review the definition or the terminology, what it stands for, what it means, the key terms, and see if you can't start picking out certain things. Like cerebral, you should know that's the brain, just from reviewing the anatomy in the book. Cranial nerves, that should automatically, that's the brain, that's the nervous system that we're talking about. That'll come in time too. Root words: neuro, glio, ganglio, meningo, myelo. Be familiar with those and the meanings. Roots for the brain here: encephalo, cerebro, corto, or cortico, thalmo, ventriculo, medullo, psych, narc. And then the exercises are throughout the chapter. Vascular disorders of the nervous system. So a stroke or a CVA, cerebrovascular accident, are common. Thrombosis is common. That's when you get a blood clot. That is never a good thing. However, even strokes today compared to 25 years ago, what we know about them and how to assess for them has come a long way. Modern medicine is a good thing. An aneurysm, this picture does an okay job. So this is showing you the normal artery, and this is showing you how it's kind of swollen or like maybe pinched off somewhere, and it creates an aneurysm. Not every aneurysm is that um, what am I trying to say? Visible or obvious. Obvious is what I was trying to say. But aneurysms can cause aphasia, and it can also cause hemiplegia. And whereas paralysis on one side, aphasia is the inability to communicate. Somebody can hear you, but they can't communicate back to you. So lots of things that can happen in our nervous system as far as injuries. Head injuries, oh my goodness. So head injuries, concussions has become a really hot topic the past 10 years when it comes to athletes, because concussions, we know more about them. They are a brain injury. And sometimes they're mild, sometimes they're medium, sometimes they're very large. And if you don't allow enough time to in between head injuries, or knocks to the head, to let that concussion or that contusion heal, then you have permanent brain damage. So read this, become more familiar with it. A lot of it's, this information can also be found in the news, but look up some good research articles, what we're learning about our brains as we go along in medicine. Today, we do not know everything to know about our brain, but we know way more than we did 25 years ago when I was a brand new nurse. It just, the knowledge continues. Confusion and coma, you can read about that. Infection, meningitis is a common infection that we get in our nervous system that can be bacterial or viral. Neoplasms, brain tumors such as that. You're welcome to read about that. They're unfortunate, especially, well, with anybody, but especially young people. I see a lot of commercials, St. Jude's and stuff like that. They deal with childhood brain tumors often, or any kind of neoplasms in children. Degenerative diseases, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. By the way, pay attention to Alzheimer's in the next 10 years, guys. There's so much data and research that is happening Alzheimer's is now being referred to as diabetes type 3. There's a diabetes type 1, diabetes type 2, and now it's not in textbooks yet. Of course, textbooks are typically older. It takes 5 years to get the information in there. So, but look in the future, Alzheimer's is, they're relating it to sugars in our brain. The food that we've been eating since the 70s is not the food same as the food that they were eating in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. This I could teach a whole class on that, so I'm not going to go there. But just pay attention to what Alzheimer's, the research brings about in the coming years. Moral of the story: eat whole foods. Don't eat. Yeah, eat whole foods. Epilepsy is a significant disorder of the nervous system. Sleep disturbances can even be. I used to work with a night shift nurse who had narcolepsy. I shouldn't have laughed at that. I didn't mean to laugh at that. She laughs. She would laugh more at herself than we would laugh at her. I promise. Sleep apnea. That's interesting that they have this. Hmm. As a nervous system, well, I guess it could be. It could be a nervous system issue. A lot of times, sleep apnea is respiratory or even cardiac, but I can see why they put it under nervous system. Anyway, okay. So be familiar with the disorders that are listed. I think that's it. Nope. Okay. One, I forgot all about this section. Behavioral disorders. These have been around since the beginning of time. They are labeled differently maybe than they, compared to 100 years ago. We've all known about them. I do think a lot of these are getting worse because of our time spent holding or sitting by or working on electronic devices. But again, like I said, that's a whole nother class. So that's all I'll say about that. We as a society, especially our young people, do not go outside like we used to. And definitely not like our parents and grandparents used to. So things are changing, and I'll just leave it there. Behavioral disorders of the nervous system. The textbook lists anxiety, mood disorders, psychosis, attention deficit, autism. I have something to say about that too. Drugs that can be used to treat these. All right, so all the above disorders, because someone is diagnosed with anxiety or diagnosed with epilepsy on the other page, or autism or ADHD, that doesn't mean it like you become that diagnosis. That means you still have a very fulfilling life, and you just learn how to manage it. You don't have to let it encompass you. You manage it, but still live a very, very full life. Many of these disorders, one of the treatments is going outside, eating whole foods, taking better care of yourself, walking away from electronics. Um, anyway, okay, that's not what we're even here to talk about. Terminology wise, just be familiar with these terminologies and know that, for example, schizophrenia, that's a nervous system issue. It's a behavioral disorder of the nervous system. Medications for these ailments, there are plenty of drugs. The drugs have significant side effects, so it's much better to manage it with, um, you know, um, well behaviors, I guess is what I should say. Drinking water, going outside, limiting sugar, limiting alcohol, limiting electronic devices in your hand 24/7, and dementia, which is Alzheimer's and dementia. They're the same, but they're not. Dementia is a gradual loss of intellectual function. Gosh, I could say so much about these, but that's not what I'm here for. Terminology: acetylcholine, basal ganglia, Broca area, cerebral arterial circle, contralateral, corpus callosum, dermatome, ipsilateral, leptomeninges, norepinephrine. Say those out loud. And these are terms that you want to know. Um, Again, I'm not expecting you to memorize everything because we know how to use our resources. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 7. Ooh, and I kept it under 15 minutes, barely. Okay, if you all have any questions about the nervous system, please reach out.